You are listening to Healing with Haley, episode 32, Unearthing Success, Jessica's journey from digging up history to building a business. Welcome to the podcast where it's all about healing, self-improvement, our brains, and living your dream life. My name is Haley Kirk, and I'm a life coach, mom, and entrepreneur here to show you how to be the hero of your story. You guys, I've got an amazing guest tonight. We have Jessica here, and she has her business of Community Connections LLC, where she brings archaeology, where she brings archaeology to the public and gets people excited about history. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know. So I met Jessica. What was it, like a month ago now? Oh my goodness. Has it been a
It
month?
seems like longer, but yeah, I think it's a month.
We met at the Summit of Greatness hosted by Lewis Howes, who does the School of Greatness. And that was just such an epic event altogether. It's hard to say
Oh, yes.
what it is in one simple sentence. It's a bunch of speakers who are in a bunch of different industries, and their message to us of empowerment, of leadership, of
Yes.
multifacets of self-growth and improvements. How
Absolutely.
else to sum it up? But yeah, so I was in line I wanted some food at one of the breaks. And so I was waiting in line at a food truck. Jessica was just so friendly, and I was like, "Hi, I'm hungry."
Let's
Jessica was
stay
like,
together in this line.
"Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Me too." But anyway, so tell me more. I know we talked about it quite a bit before the podcast, but tell us like kind of the journey about your business. You mentioned that started around 2019, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah. So it's not just my business. It's I've got a business partner. Her name is Jasmine Saxon. We met at a conference. It's an archaeology conference, so it's not the same vibe as Summit of Greatness. Both equally awesome, but we met at a conference, really hit it off in the sense of like we both love getting the public involved in things. We would meet up after we met. We would meet up several times, just kind of geek out about like our vision of the future and like what we wanted the industry to look like and all that. And so, yeah, eventually, like I was over at her house one day and we're like, should we just make this official? And it just so happened to be April Fool's Day, but it was April 1st, 2019. We were
oh,
we
fun.
signed the paperwork and everything. So yeah, we started then, and it's like 50-50 thing. We do all of the stuff that we can to get the public involved with archaeology and history and get people excited about it. And it's not just a bunch of old, boring people. It's like actually really cool.
I love it. So, if someone like myself who's like archaeology, and the first thing I think of is like dinosaur bones,
Yep.
tell us in your passionate, yummy way all about archaeology.
Okay. Very simply put, archaeology is the study of what humans leave behind, plain and simple.
Ooh.
So paleontology is everything to deal with dinosaurs.
Okay.
And geology studies the earth and kind of plays into both of those. So with archaeology in the US, because it does get different in different countries, and I don't know all the laws everywhere, but in the US, technically anything that is 50 years and older is considered archaeology. So that can be buildings and cars, and there's styrofoam that, I mean, like anything that was made, let's see, what year is it? 2024.
Yeah.
So like 1974 and before is considered archaeology. And there's, different levels of all of that, but yeah, that's what we deal with is, and then I go like, so Jasmine focuses more on like what's called, we refer to historics. So pretty much once European settlers came over into the US area. And then I do everything pre-contact. So like it goes all the way up to like I've worked on a site that was like 16,000 years old. So it just totally depends. Yeah, that was really cool. But yeah.
16,000 years old? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so yeah, it was a good time, and that was like one of my first projects ever, and it was a lot, but it was good.
Wow. So oh man. I really want to go down this rabbit hole just for fun. So when I did biology, actually had to take it twice. And I swear this is like such an important piece to like the difference a teacher can make in someone's education. So I had a teacher, this guy, he was so morbidly obese. Like his like belly was like going over his belt and like he would like wobble and like the stage would creak every time he made a step. Like he was so
Oh,
healthy, so just miserable too. Like his energy was just yuck. And
oh no.
it was an 8 a.m. biology class
Oh
with
no.
this professor. And I would just fall asleep every class. I would just pass out. And so I failed that class. I got like a D minus or something. And so I
Yeah.
retook it and I made sure this time that I got a good professor. This professor, I can't remember his name, but like clean cut, like I can't remember the name. Maybe you'll know. It's someone who studies and collects insects.
Oh,
What is it called?
yeah. I cannot think of the word.
Yeah,
It's like I can't remember the name. Yeah, I do.
I'm gonna look it up.
My friend's wife, they
Ar
have an entire freezer.
arthropods? No.
It's not there.
Anyway, you have a friend who collects bugs?
His wife studies insects and they have an entire freezer full of just random bugs that he's found in the field and that she's collected. It's pretty great, but yeah.
Entomologist.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Entomologist. So he was an entomologist and he was also religious and in where I went to school it was Utah, so it was like very Mormon heavy and he would bring these cases of bugs from the Galapagos Islands. He would go every year.
Whoa.
Like he was so passionate about Darwin and like he would have like the
That's cool.
cocoon of a butterfly and then like all the like phases of the caterpillar to the butterfly to
Wow.
the like adult butterfly, the female, the male. Like he was so cool. He was so cool. And he one time brought these hominids, skulls, like replicas. I'm pretty sure.
Sure, 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 sure.
But like I was like, whoa. And we figured out like one of the oldest human skulls was found in like Africa. And it was like all one like big thing called Pangea or something.
Yeah, Pangea was like yeah, yeah, Pangea is the thing. Yes.
Okay, so everything was
Yes,
like all
yeah.
together at one time and then it spread apart. And the reason they know that is because all the skulls got scattered everywhere, whatever. And I was just like, man, like science is cool. And
It is.
he would do like lectures outside of class for his opinion, right? Like, because a lot of people believed in like creation, and then he was like an
Sure.
evolutionist with
Yeah.
creation hybrid. So it was like he was like, if you guys want my
Ah,
opinion, here's come to this bonus lecture. Like he was just so passionate. And I was just,
yeah.
science is cool.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So
It is, it's wild.
so when you say
Different
it was
professors and stuff. Yeah.
16,000 years old site,
Yeah. Yeah.
what does that even mean? Like what year in time is that? 16,000. That's
So
BC.
the the Bering Strait, so let's see. So there were the last ice age that happened. Oh boy. For anybody who's a science nerd, I'm about to get some emails because I can't remember exactly the date, but basically, around 10,000 years ago is when the last ice age was kind of fading out. Like it was the ice sheets were kind of melting up into, where they're at today. So 16,000 years ago, the Bering Strait between Alaska into Russia was open. Like you could walk over, and now you can't.
Mm.
So hunters, there has been archaeological evidence of people, traversing back and forth between the two. That is also debated because there's some, whatever. So the site that I was at was in Alaska. It was my first job, and I got my booty handed to me because I didn't really realize what I was getting myself into. But yeah, it was like, oh gosh, it was, I don't know, how tall am I? I'm like 5'5", so the hole I was in was up to like, I don't know, clavicles. And
Yeah.
so we were digging at the bottom, and that's where people had been, and we were finding like, it's called debitage. So when you go to make like an arrowhead or a spear point, you have a rock, and then you start breaking the rock down, and all the flakes that are being broken off are things that we find in the field a lot. So we don't always find like the fancy projectile points or whatever. We find all the remnants of the leftovers. And so
Mm.
there were thousands upon thousands of these little pieces of debitage or flakes that were just in this area, and that's what we were digging up. And when they were doing the radiocarbon dating, this was working with Texas A&M. That's when they
Hold
started
on.
finding that like 16,000 years old. So
Wow. Say that again. Radiocarbon dating.
yes,
Did I say that?
radiocarbon dating. Yes, you did. It's C14, is the like whatever. It is when they take this is where the lab people take over. So we just send in samples. So
Yeah.
you can give them like charcoal chunks, if like people have if you're finding places where people were like cooking meat or burning tubers and roots and stuff, you can take that, send it to the lab, and then they can date it, carbon date it, and then they'll tell you, what, around what year or century the stuff is being burned and all that kind of stuff.
So
Yeah,
it's
I'm
a
shy.
machine. So it's like a machine that can tell you what time period something belonged to.
Yeah, it changed the game. Like basically back in the day, I don't know if you've ever listened to John Mulaney, but like he's like, I don't know, people could just get away with murder. Like it's like unless someone said that you were there, like it didn't matter. But now like you have such in-depth scientific things that can help DNA, like, and date things and all that kind of stuff. So once all this technology came in, that changed the game for archaeology and like really helped us see how far back um, things were happening. Because for a long time we thought, okay, maybe the Americas were populated 2,000 years ago or whatever. Like nobody really had a lot of depth of knowledge there until radiocarbon dating came along. So it has helped tremendously.
That's so cool. So tell me like I want to know about like little Jessica. Like how did she get passionate about archaeology?
Yeah, the way I grew up in southern Colorado, so it's a very arid landscape. It's kind of like the desert, but a few more trees. So I was out in the middle of nowhere digging with my brother a lot. And we just got to bop around the desert. I don't know, just doing that. My dad was really passionate about history, and I remember watching the History Channel a lot and like being so fascinated with different like cultures and stories and all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty much when I watched The Mummy with Brendan Fraser that like just did it for me. I was like, I want this to be my life. And I didn't know how to go about that, but that kind of introduced me to what archaeology is kind of. And so through a series of events, like I was like, Mom, I want to be a historian. And both my parents were like, no, they don't make money. No. So I was like, well, if I can't do history, then I guess I'll do archaeology. And so then, yeah, I met a professor, and he sat down with me on a phone call. And basically we put together like a PowerPoint almost to give my parents to be like, this is a viable career. And
That's
so that's
so
kind of
funny.
that's how it worked. But yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. So you are an archaeologist.
Yes. Yeah, that is,
That's
yeah.
so cool. And so you say, I just got off site. So that means someone, how does that even work? Like someone calls someone and is like, hey, I found some like ancient relics. And then they're like, cool, we're coming. How does that whole thing work?
That'd be awesome. It is a very complex process. And it depends on the land you're working on. So if it's federal versus private versus whatever else, That determines quite a bit. Um, so Jasmine and I, we consider ourselves to be public archaeologists in the sense of like we work specifically on projects that aren't very typical of our industry.
Uh-huh.
But in the industry, there are what's called cultural resource management firms, and these firms are private firms that go out and they do work on behalf of universities, oil and gas, the development stuff like federal projects, all sorts of stuff. So the CRM industry is where a lot of the workers come in, and they're the ones who go on site. So like if the Forest Service wants an I don't know, like 1,000 acres surveyed within their specific forest, they'll hire a firm to come out if they don't have the in-house ways to do it. They'll hire a firm to come out and they'll like do the survey. So there's so many levels to all of this, and I'm trying not to get too convoluted, but like the first initial thing that you do in archaeology is just background research. So you get on the computer, do a bunch of like lit review, see like look at old maps, and then just see what's on the property. And then if you see stuff and if you still need to move forward, then that's when you bring people out and they start doing very strategic lines. We call them transects, and we all have to walk exactly like 100 feet apart from each other. And we just walk in lines. Doesn't matter if we have to cross rivers, hills, mountains, homes. We just keep walking. I mean, we go around what we need to, but and then once we start finding things, then that's when we put points, and then we can start doing like shovel probing to test if we need to do more digging. Uh, Most people when they think about archaeology, well, other than like dinosaurs or Indiana Jones, is they're thinking of the big block excavations that you see and people are digging. That's the most expensive bit of archaeology. And it's kind of like the sexy bit, but it's also super expensive. So not a lot of people go that route. So if that can be avoided, it usually is because we also don't want to like tear up the ground and then future archaeologists can't like, see more. If there's better technology, then they might be able to do something better with it. Like we try not to dig as much just so we're not disturbing burials, maybe, or something that pops up that's gonna just cost a lot more, the client a lot more money or whatever. So that's a lot of what we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of people involved in like actually excavating or not even really, but digging.
All of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. So tell me, I want to know like your favorite dig or excavation.
Ooh. Okay, there's two things that come up. So sometimes it's who you're digging with. Like the
Oh.
people, like if you and I were to go dig a hole, like it would probably be really fun. So there's excavation projects that I've been on that have just been a blast just because of the people, even though the dirt you're digging through is like asphalt. Um, so I'd say the funnest projects I've been on, there was one in southern Denver where we were finding things that were around, I mean, like just huge, like huge pits of rocks that were about 4,000 years old. And they were like perfectly circular. And all these people were doing they were just taking up a bunch of roots. Like there was no meat, no nothing. It was just roots, like root veggies that they had been gathering and collecting. And then they would just roast them. And I mean, this thing was probably like 5 feet across, and it was huge. But then we were able to radiocarbon date. We were able to date all the stuff. We were able to see what the roots were, which all I can think of is Chenopodium, and I don't even know the common name of that off the top of my head. But like, yeah, it was awesome. So there was that, and that was really cool. And then I think the Alaska excavations that I was just talking about were probably some of the coolest because even though there was like 5 million mosquitoes per square inch up there, it was still
No.
amazing because we got to see some really cool things. So that was
Oh,
cool. So many mosquitoes.
that sounds just god awful.
It was not fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I was excavating with toothpicks too. So it was like it was I was working for a firm, but we were partnered with Texas A&M, and so Texas A&M has PhD students, and they were doing their like dissertations on this type of stuff. So they wanted us to go very precisely and very strategically. So within an 8-day period, I dug with toothpicks 2 centimeters deep and in a pizza box 50 by 50 centimeters square. Like that's it. That's all I dug. And it was
Oh,
just, it was so strategic because it's academic and they needed precise data. It was pretty nuts, but that's not what usually happens. I'll just say that.
toothpicks.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Is it because you could damage it? Is that why you use such like
So they use toothpicks a lot with bones, and even though we weren't dealing with bone, we were just dealing with a lot of flakes or the debitage, but they were all
I forgot what that word
there was
was.
so much of it.
Gosh, what's that one again?
Debitage is just a the little flake, the little chipstone pieces that come off of that original cobble. So as
Oh,
you're chipping it away, it's just the little chips, I guess I should say chips, but yeah,
yeah.
debitage is like French, like
I like it.
debitage.
Keep
Yeah,
saying.
it's nice.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh, I'm learning so much. This is like I feel like this is one of those classes in school I just like fell asleep. I couldn't stay engaged too much. But like you're like hearing
I
your
get that.
passion and your excitement about it is so fun. So I really loved when we were getting to know each other at the event. You told me that you hosted this event where 1,000 people came. So tell us about the event. Tell us about how you made it so successful. Like, give us the rundown.
Yeah, so there is an event that is put on. So the original people who put it on, it's the American Institute of Archaeology. And so they began this event called International Archaeology Day about 15 years ago. And so they put the broadcast out that this is going to be the third Saturday of every October. So it's an annual thing, is International Archaeology Day. And so in the Denver area, there was a passionate group of volunteers who were so excited that this was happening. So they wanted to partake and they started running their own International Archaeology Day. And so that's what a lot of people around the country do. They all host their own versions of International Archaeology Day. Well, this group of people, they were very passionate, loved it, and they were getting more and more traction. People were coming from all over the place, but they were already retired and they were kind of done running. They didn't need to be running an event. They were just over it, more or
Hmm.
less.
Hmm.
But the state of Colorado, they wanted the tradition to continue. So they were tasked with finding someone else to host the event. So that is when Jasmine and I come into play. So Jasmine and I were presenting at a conference, and people came up to us after. His name was Todd McMahon and a guy named Larry Beidle, sorry. And so they approached us and asked if we wanted to take it over, and we were super jazzed. We were so about it. It was right up our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And the first year in 2021, we were on the committee, or no, 2022 we were on the committee, and then 2023 last year was when we took it over completely and revamped it. So we have connections. We've been working, one of our clients is Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater, and so we've been working with them, and we asked if we could move the event to Red Rocks. They said absolutely. So we moved it to Red Rocks, which was the first awesome move. We wanted it to be more like a festival. So we wanted it to be fun and where young people would come and it wouldn't just be like tucked away as it had been before. So we wanted it to be like out in the open for everybody to see. So it's a free event. We got a $50,000 grant from the state, and then we had a bunch of sponsorships come in. And so, yeah, we had the entire archaeology community within the Denver area and the Colorado area. they all came through so amazing. We were able to raise, I think it was 22,500 from sponsorships. Yeah. Like people came through. And so we got two food trucks. We had a beer garden. The brewer who brewed the beer for us, she made a historic braggart. So it's like a mead. So it's like the way people would make alcohol back in the day. And so she made that for us. We had root
It's so
beer and water
cool.
for the kids. It was awesome. It was so cool. We had three speakers and each one like talked about different aspects of archaeology or history or dealing with just different aspects of being human, honestly. And so then we also had, I think it was ended up being 36 different vendors, different exhibitors that came through. So museums, as I was saying earlier, CRM firms, universities, we had the whole shebang. And in the end, and then we had 5 offsite tours as well. But in the end, yeah, we had 1,000 people show up and it was nuts. And Jasmine and I were worked ourselves to the bone. It was crazy, but it
I
ended up
can't
being a
imagine.
success. And it was, I, I'm still blown away. Still blown away. So yeah.
Wow. Well, and to have like that be your first event, especially like new baby business, right? Like it's a all
Yeah.
new. Like that's like a huge success. That's like massive. So you guys worked on the grants and then you guys reached out to sponsor. Like how did you guys get all that done?
Yeah. So Jasmine is like a writing machine. She's the writing queen and she worked a lot on the grant part. We got letters of support from different members of the community. So we had other CRM firms. I forgot to mention that
What's
also we
that?
had members from the Northern Arapaho. They came down and did a teepee demonstration and earth watercolors.
Ooh,
So that was
ooh.
phenomenal. And they wrote a letter of support. So it was very, very supportive.
What's a CRM?
We CRM, Cultural Resource Management Industry.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Because in business, a CRM is a client relationship manager. So
Yep.
I'm like, that doesn't make sense in this context. So cultural,
Resource management.
that's amazing. So a letter of support, what does that mean? It means like a certain group is gonna come show up at your event, or what does that mean?
Yeah, it can. So in the grant writing process, it helps you receive the grant because you don't always get grants.
Yeah.
So they can turn you down if they don't see that that you have like a good plan of action or like any which way. But with this grant specifically, it was through the State Historic Fund. So it's a very elaborate grant writing process. And
Yeah.
so having letters of support from the community that they want to see this event happen, that's what we were looking for. So they were not only participants, but they knew that it was beneficial for the community as well. So yeah,
Oh, that's
it
so
was cool.
cool. Letter of
Yeah.
support is what it's called.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
And
so,
those really help in many, many processes, but yeah.
yeah. So you had, how many of those letters did you have?
Ooh, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I think there was 8 to 10 people who wrote in. And
And those
like,
are different communities in the state of
yeah,
Colorado. Oh, wow.
yes, yeah. Yeah, because people love the event and they like plan on coming every year and stuff. And we were just like, well, we want to make this bigger, so like, let's go.
That's so cool. And so at the event, you had like these like, brewery like stuff where how they made beer back in the day and these presentations, you had speakers. Like what else did you guys have?
So each exhibitor, we had face painting for kids, we had a photo booth, like a banner where people could take photos at. We had like the food and beverage area was like really popping off. The food trucks we had were a Mediterranean inspired food truck called A Lady in the Wild. And then the other one was a sibling trio. They were from the Apache tribe. They had started their own food truck. And oh my gosh, yeah, they ran out of food and they couldn't actually go to the next event that they had planned later on in the day. So it was really awesome in that sense.
Cool.
Um, we had so like there's a thing it's basically spear throwing, but before the bow and arrow was created, it's called atlatl or an atlat, so it's ATL. And so we had a spear throwing station, so families and kids could like throw a spear. Um, and it that was a huge success. People were lined up around the block for that. So
Mm.
um yeah, and
So
then when it with the
essentially,
earth,
oh, go ahead, go ahead, go
sorry,
ahead. With the earth.
with the northern Arapaho coming down, a gentleman named Mike Redman and his wife Iva, and then her family members, some of them put the teepee up, which was a huge effort from their community. Mike Redman is a teacher, a volleyball teacher, and so he had his girls put handprints all over the canvas that they put up, and they prepped the poles and everything. And then the earth watercolors is they had gone out weeks before and collected different types of soil that would make beautiful watercolor pictures, and so they were like guiding people through that, and it was
Wow.
very special, really, really cool. But
So essentially, like, there's parts of archaeology going into the prep work of this archaeology event.
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah.
So cool. That's so cool. Why why would someone and I'm asking this question for someone like me, right? Is like why is archaeology important? Like why is it that you guys want to share this passion you guys have? Like how will it benefit people?
Yeah, we get that a lot because it's like, I mean, if you're looking around the nation, there's schools shutting anthropology programs down.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people don't see the benefit, but if we don't know our history, then we're bound to repeat it. So we're the ones trying to help people like see the future. Um, Also, archaeology has this, it's like a living history component of like how the Northern Arapaho are coming down. Like there's different groups that like a lot of mainstream media just overlooks completely. And so with archaeology, it's a way to tell the story of like a handshake to the past to get people involved in a communal story, and it brings us together, which I think in our society we need a lot more of community rather than the kind of rip that's going on. So archaeology is a great way to get people to like come together and just have a common denominator between everybody. So it's there's so many levels because also federally and legally, you have to have archaeologists out if you are going to dig. If you're going to put a shovel in the ground on federal lands, an archaeologist needs to be there.
Oh, wow.
And biologists, and there's other, laws as well. But yeah, it's a thing and it's important, and just it's not in front of people enough for them to be like, oh yeah, it just kind of gets overlooked often. So yeah,
Wow, yeah. I wonder, is it kind of like this, if I'm hearing you right, is it kind of this like like let's study kind of like our behaviors and our the things that our ancestors did to kind of bring about this community and this like humanness to us. Is that kind of, am I understanding right?
definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's so many aspects because some people get into archaeology because they don't have to deal with people. I mean, but then like that kind of defeats the purpose of like, but yes, it is like a human thing. Like if we don't know about our past and we don't know like where we came from, then what are we even doing past that? That's extreme, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it makes sense. So let me I want to play devil's advocate with you because this it's fun. Um,
Yeah.
what would you say to flat earthers?
Oh, okay.
I had to. I had to go there.
Um, So I didn't watch this whole documentary and it came out, I don't know, 2015, 2017 or something. There was a documentary where it was kind of like flat earthers versus scientists and the debate between the two.
Uh-huh.
And within science, it's kind of like there was a debate, like, wait, what? It's debatable?
Yeah, yeah. Like you guys actually took it
Um,
serious.
yeah. So, because it's interesting, at the very end of that documentary, it was like it was almost empowering because it's like, well, I mean, it's getting people to like do their own research and people are starting to get involved in a sciencey way to try to prove things, whether those things have been proven or not already, they have. But so in a way, like so much of me is like, flat earthers, come on, like that's not real. But um there's always room in science to test and test again, and people need to be checked at all times. Like it's a thing. So I think there's some good intent in there. And I think it's unfortunate that it's within that realm. Because I think so many people could like dive into so many more cool things and cure cancer. Like I feel like there's like that's another extreme thing, but like if you're so passionate about the earth being flat, then like let's just shift it over and like what else do you care about? Like let's dive into that and
Yeah,
figure more things out. So there's potential there.
I
And I
get
feel for them.
it.
But I
It's
don't want to
almost
say
like,
anything. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like because there has been so many checks for the earth to be round, and there's so many, many, many evidences for it being round, you appreciate that they're checking, right? Because that's the point of science
Yeah.
is to have peers review and double check and make sure it's not just randomness and all those like statistical measures, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you're also at the same time like, but there's so much evidence. Why not put that energy into something that hasn't been solved or at least the most
Extensively
true,
researched. Yes, yes.
the most
Exactly.
true thing up until now.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I have a really good friend who's a flat earther, and I'm just like, I'm shaking my head. I'm like, oh God, you're just too smart to think that. But I was like, listen, I would listen to it if there was, because right, there's like before or we did believe the earth was flat. But
Yes.
now,
Yeah.
but then there was just so much more evidence to prove it was round. And I was like, if there was so much more evidence to than the ones of the round earth, I would
Yeah.
listen. But there's not. So I'm like, I'm
And
good.
we've been to space, so we kind of see the shape overall. But I digress, because
Yeah.
then people are like, have we actually been to space? And it's like, well, there's
Satellites.
stuff in the sky. You look up. But anyways, yeah, it gets yep.
That's so fun. Oh my goodness. I had to ask. This is a fun one. So tell me, like, when you did that event, I want to know what are kind of like the hardest parts about your business and balancing, so you have like your business, right? And then aside, there's a portion of your business that focuses on this October event, right? So how are
Yeah.
you balancing all the facets of your business? And what are like the easiest parts of your business and the hardest parts?
Oh my gosh, it is such a balancing act. And sometimes it's just there's no balancing, honestly.
Yeah.
So Jasmine and I work really well together in the sense like we have different strengths. So okay, well, so that is a fact. But how our business has been working so far is so I'm in a hotel room right now, because I'm still working on the side for a CRM firm, cultural
Mhm.
resource management. And so I'm in the field right now doing stuff, and that's paying most of my bills.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Jasmine is able to stay at home. Her husband has a really fantastic career he's going for, and so she's able to focus more on community connections. So, like this year, this year's event, it's happening October 19th, and
Oh,
she's been holding down. I know it's coming up, and it's really crazy. I'm kind of freaking out a bit, but yeah, she's been holding down the fort. And so in terms of balancing, what's interesting is like there is no balance. Like September to October, it's just like it's go time. And when
Chaos.
a fire happens, it doesn't matter if it's like 2 in the morning, we have to put it out. Like we try to have some boundaries, but I mean, when something calls, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Um, but the rest of the year is planning or getting we apply to other grants or we'll just kind of have a resting period where we do more like report writing and stuff. And so there's balance throughout the rest of the year, but then it's like crickets sometimes, and then it's just go mode. And so I think as a small business, we are learning tons on how to make it all work because there's a lot of aspects.
Yeah. So what's the answer? Like, what have you guys figured out so far?
So we were actually just at a conference like a week ago, not even a week ago. This past weekend, we were in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the ACRA conference. And honestly, the answer is like tenfold of we have amazing mentors, and there's been people who have helped us out. I mean, tons of people who have helped us out and have been so supportive. So like it's kind of like leaning on mentorship and the community that we have because it's really tight community in this area. But it's also like kind of just having to jump all in. And I haven't done that yet, in the sense of like, quitting all my other jobs and whatnot. So it's like we're still finding the answers, but I think a good answer is just keep moving forward and doing the best we can and just being present and being all in.
Yeah.
So
And so how do you guys so what are your strengths and her strengths and how are you guys like complementing each other?
yeah, yeah. So I'd say like it goes even as deep as like what I was talking about earlier of like what we study. So like she does historics, I do pre-contact, and like that balances each other out well. Um, she's very structured and I'm very like I don't know the right word for that,
I
but
think that's like
um
ideas. Like you're very idealist. Like you like all these ideas and then she
yeah,
kind of like organizes it and structures it.
and she does that very, very well. And she, I mean,
Mm.
yeah, she has ideas as well, and I can organize things. And so we have a good flow of that. Like,
Yeah.
because I can just be like, "Ah," and then she's like, all right, wait, that's a good one. Let's put it into this. So
Oh
she's
my
able
God.
to translate my mind.
That's so
And
cool.
so yeah, we balance each other well in that sense too. And like she's the writing queen. Like if you want me to write you a poem, I can write you a poem off the top of my head. But if you want me to write you a report and a whole grant in a day or two, she's got you covered. Like wouldn't that's not me. So
That's amazing.
she's and then yeah, I mean I think you just have to see us together because it's very like it's a flow, it's a back and a forth type of thing. So and
That's
we
so
have to give each other grace too, because it's like we're always moving and grooving and everything. So
wow. Wow, wow. So what do you notice are like weaknesses in your business or in like your partnership or even this past really successful event? Like maybe what were some of the failures or like
yeah, yeah.
mistakes that you made that you're like aware of or what how you're handling those?
Yeah, believe me, when you start doing more and more public things, you get feedback whether you want it or not. So, um, which is wonderful. All feedback is data. We don't have to take it personal necessarily, but
Right. It's so
I
hard not
mean,
to, but yeah, I get it. I get it.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It's I'd say overall, like I guess as a company, like me being in the field a lot is kind of a weakness because I'm not there to like participate 100% all the time.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like someone commented and said they wanted a bigger thing, and then someone else said they needed to have transportation from downtown Denver to the event. Like everybody had valid
Let
but
me hold your
different
hand.
things to say. Yeah.
Let me do that for you. Oh my goodness gracious.
It's all very appreciated. But yeah, it's in terms of failures, I guess we could do more communication or just have like last year was our first year, so it was pretty chaotic. This year we're getting a handle more on things, and I think by next year we'll be able to like have more of a standard of operation of how things are going. So like
Yeah.
Jasmine has been holding down the fort while I've been in the field quite a bit. So she's been writing her hours down. She's got her whole flow of like what needs to happen. We've started a timeline of what we need to do. And so we're trying to be less chaotic and more organized to like have the front just be nice and smooth as
Yeah.
we experienced at Summit of Greatness, where it was like, this is so amazing. But then behind the scenes, I'm sure it was just like nutso town. So
Oh, I bet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so
yeah.
true. So it sounds like, have you read the book Rocket Fuel?
No, I don't think so. Right,
I'm
does
gonna
that?
send it to you, like the title, because it sounds like you're the visionary. And oh, remind me your partner's name.
Jasmine.
Jasmine, and Jasmine's the integrator. So the book talks about how like Disney actually went bankrupt 3 times
Oh
until
shit.
his brother, I know, until his brother came in and he was the integrator because,
Mhm.
Walt is just this idea master, but he wasn't able to focus on his strength because his weakness was like accounting and finance and all those things. And that was his brother's strength. And so he was able
That's
to, yeah, he was able to be
yeah.
like, Walt would have all these ideas and he was like, keep them coming. No, no, no. Yes, 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 go. So like it was so cool how that finally became the Disney that we know is because there was an integrator. So it sounds like and you guys might have like a little hybrid of both, but maybe your strength is more visionary and hers is like integrator, like total analyst and like very, very organized. Like she sounds like such a great integrator. Maybe. I'm just making assumptions from what you're saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, this book is amazing. It's called Rocket Fuel and it talks
I'm
about
sure that.
partnerships and who you should be working with. And it sounds like you guys have such a great partnership. Like that's so, so cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she definitely, yeah, like yeah, it is like a balancing act of like, I think we both have certain aspects of each.
Yeah, it sounds
And
like
then we're
that
able
too.
to like flow it. Yeah. Yeah, but she definitely helps reel me in.
That's so
So
good. That's
yeah,
so
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I love it. I love it. So you said that your event had $22,500 that you guys fundraised. So
Yes,
is
yeah.
that like, what were the goals going into your event? And then did you meet them or did you exceed them? How did you go about that aspect of planning an event?
That was crazy. That kept me up at night. So like, oh boy. So when we were applying to the State Historic Fund grant, we had to get to 50,000. Their stipulations is you have to put up 25% of the 50,000. No, 12% of the 50,000
Oh.
um on your own. And so we had to be prepared to pay 12,500, which I mean, we didn't just have that in the bank. So we were like, okay, we're reaching out to the community. So um the community, so we just started asking everybody and their moms. So we had private donors, we had firms donate, we had Denver Mountain Parks, they came in, they donated. There were so many entities that came through just, and it was so humbling and baffling that so many people, I mean, this is a big event and they wanted to be a part of it. And so this was like a perfect way to be a part of it is they were sponsoring different aspects and everything. And yeah, I mean, we sent letters and like you can't take fundraising that personal because it's like, all right, I asked, you said yes. Now I have to send you an email because you haven't sent any money yet. So then, oh, you're busy and you haven't responded to my email. And so then I have to be like, oh, hey, you said you're gonna do this. Do you still want to? So it's like you have to
Yeah.
have like 7 asks, and it's just like, am I annoying you? Do you not want to talk anymore? I don't know. So,
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. I
and then
get
you have to get creative of like, you could be a sponsor. You're not in archaeology really, but like you could help out. So like
yeah.
I know different members of like just family members even donated. Like it was just like a huge amount of love that came through with that, and it was fabulous. Like the community came through, and it was just like I like I every time I think about this event, it's just baffling how it all went down. Like it was so
Wow.
cool. So cool.
So is the part that they wanted to contribute to something that maybe they didn't understand themselves, or they were just like so passionate about the topic? Like what about it was baffling?
I think it's more the second. Like they are very passionate about the topic. A lot of people realize that if we don't get the public to get interested in archaeology, then archaeology disappears. They're already trying to
Mhm.
like rewrite laws and different things to kind of take funding away. There's different things happening, and I don't know all the laws off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just really excited about this type of work, and because it is a fun portion of archaeology to talk with people that don't know anything about archaeology, and you're just like, oh, like it's so fun.
I want to come to this event. This sounds so
Yes, you should. Oh my gosh, if you can, this year it's October 19th, next year it's October 18th. So
I'm
come on
coming. That
down.
sounds so fun. And I want to throw the spear that you're talking about. That sounds like
Yes,
up my alley.
you have to.
So really quick, go back to so they they is it the governing body of archaeology in Colorado? Is this kind of like who you're talking to that said we need 12% of the 50K grant you're asking for?
Yeah, that's so that is just the standard of the State Historic Fund grants. So that's just a
Mm,
stipulation for whoever applies to the grant.
mm,
So we worked with a nonprofit partner called Colorado Preservation Inc. or
mhm,
CPI. And
mhm.
CPI, since we're an LLC, we have to partner with a nonprofit to get any money. And so then they
Mm.
hire us as the managers of the event, and we just run everything. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
so cool. Yeah, because you guys are like a corporation. So you
yeah.
partnered. So a corporation partners with a nonprofit, and through that nonprofit, that you guys can get grant money because they're hiring you to run the event.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Wow.
Yeah.
And so would they only give you the 50,000 if you put the money up front? Because you said you guys didn't have that up front. So you guys were getting funds from all these other sources, private
Yes.
people, family, like that.
Yeah. We had to secure the 12, well, at the minimum 12,500. And then um that was our putting what am I trying to say? That was us
Down
putting it
payment.
forward to like, yeah, to like say like, all right, we mean business, we're here for it. And so then yeah, it was all about making relationships and building. I mean, it still is because this is only our second year, and we received less this year, but there's just, it's an election year. There was people who were able to donate last year who weren't able to this year, and all sorts of things.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was just awesome.
That's so cool. So I always like to like make sure I have my ducks in a row with the story. So
Yeah.
you you applied for the grant, but they told you you have to have the 12%. So then you reach out to the partners and the family, you get that 12%, you get those letters of support, and then they give you the 50,000.
Rotate a couple ducks. but yes, both basically like we knew going in that we would need like that certain percentage.
Oh,
So there's an April 1st due date for the grant. So
uh-huh.
we needed the letters of support and all that money by April 1st. Then we apply for the grant. Then they do a review process. And then that's when we either get the grant or we don't. And so if we didn't get the grant, then I have no idea what we would have done. But anyways, um, so yeah, so that was that's the rest of the part.
Wow. And so of that 50,000, that 22,500 that you raised, that's like outside of the expenses, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, our plan is to start building, hopefully, building more and more of of like a snowball type of thing so we can start
Yeah.
investing that money to
Yeah.
then be able to have the event kind of start paying for itself. We'll
Right.
probably have to start charging eventually if we're going to keep it at this size because
Or
we
like a
want to make it
tiny
bigger.
amount, like $5.
Yeah, yeah. And like right now everything is free and it's all
Yeah.
based off of grant money. So like I think it'll just be a slow change of like slowly like charging and increasing prices and then going from there. Because basically, Jasmine and I have been doing this for free the last 2 years. So, but we're very passionate about it. And that's why we're like trying to get that ball rolling of just like keep putting the money in, keep putting it in, and like let's just make this its own little monster. A good monster.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you really built this like community relationships, and you're increasing that love and awareness for archaeology, which it sounds like is like the premise of your business.
Yeah, I mean, we have been we have been so fortunate that the entire industry has been so supportive. Like we
Yeah,
thought when we told our bosses that we were starting a business that they'd be like, "Well, you're fired," or "Get out of here." You know, like who knows? We had all sorts of different thoughts, but like immediately, like they were just like, "Awesome! How can we help? Like, let's do this." And
it's so
so
cool.
I'm
Wow.
yeah, it's been magical, honestly. We've had like nothing but support and love. Like people have come out of the woodwork and just like, hey, can I volunteer? Like, can I just do XYZ? Like the stories go on and on like of different people who've helped us. It's I yeah. The archaeology community was already strong, but we feel like we've received just like the extra bit of love and it's been awesome.
Oh, I just love you, and you're such a person of gratitude and abundance. Like it just reeks out of you. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very
Yeah.
sweet.
So to close the podcast, how like for someone who's wanting to kind of follow in your footsteps, like do like a big event like that or start a small time business, what would you recommend?
Honestly, the first steps are just make sure you have a really good community around you. And
Mm,
you don't need like 1,000 people or anything. Like just have some like one or two people you can just lean on sometimes because having this event, starting a small business, it is no joke. It is a lot of work. And so I guess tangible first steps other than having a support system of any sort, even if it's just like, I don't know, something healing for yourself. I would say is go to a field school. All archaeologists need a really good field school to get in, usually, into the industry. So go to a good field school and just start networking with as many people as possible because that really helps get you to so many places. My first like 10 jobs in archaeology, I didn't really do an interview. It was just because I could like I would have a beer with the boss or something. Like I would just
no.
get to know somebody and like they were like, you should come work for us or something like that. Like
Yeah.
so it's been very yeah, something like that. Because starting a small business, it depends on where you start it, like what state you're in. Like in the state of Colorado, it's $50 to start a small business, but I know in like Texas, it's like 400 to $500. Yeah, and
Wow.
it's kind of like it kind of I don't know. So there's a lot of little like loops if you can get involved in like small business groups or the archaeology world is extremely small. So once you start meeting one archaeologist, you'll probably meet like 1,000.
That's so
But
cute. But that's just like the kind of the power of a niche, right? Like that's
yeah.
so interesting. Wow. So you said networking, small business groups.
Yeah, specifically if people wanted to start getting into archaeology, not all states have this, but most of them do. So like in Colorado, there's the Colorado Archaeological Society. So this is just a group of very passionate people. They're avocational archaeologists, so they just do archaeology like as like field trips or like when they can and kind of stuff like that. That those types of groups that are either free or very minimal cost to join are the gateway into a lot of archaeology projects, and that gets you in the door with firms and people like Jasmine and I who are trying to hire people to like help us run events and all sorts of stuff like that. So if you go to a good field school through a university, um, network, go to as many conferences as possible and talk to as many people as possible. I know that's scary for introverts maybe, but like just making specific connections will always help you. They always benefit. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, that's how you met Jasmine was through a conference, right?
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, like, especially if you go to a conference that is of a particular like niche, again, like a specific
Yeah.
people who go to that event think very similar or have similar passions and interests to your whatever that event is around. So it's be
Oh
in
yeah.
those places where those people are, like you're saying, field schools, societies, small business groups, conferences, like these are all places
Yeah.
where those types of people hang out. Like that's so wise. That's so wise.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody who is listening or watches this later, you can always contact me and I can try to help you get where you need to go because like I said, it's a small world, so we can probably help you get involved if you're interested in archaeology.
Oh, I love that. That's always my last question is like how can people follow you? Do you guys have a YouTube or like an Instagram page? Like how can people follow your event planning and all the
Yeah.
things you're doing?
Yeah, so we've got so we are very active on our website and Instagram, and we also have a Facebook, but so on Instagram it's communityconnections.llc, and then our website is communityconnections.biz, biz.
Oh,
And so yeah, other than that, I guess my personal handle is I dig to travel, but
I love it.
if you
That
want to see
also
like
you're a
actual stuff,
speaker. That's clever. That's clever. I love it.
play on words, but yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put those in the show notes, so that people can have that as an easy way to reach out to you.
Yeah,
Oh my
definitely.
goodness. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much for your time. I learned so much. I love archaeology now. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. This has been lovely, and I love your energy. I love everything you're about. Like, so
Oh,
I'm so excited to be a part of it. So thank you for having me.
thank you, hon.